There's been a massive shift in the culture that has happened over the past week. And while I don't know if we're going to look back and say, like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, it definitely got the match lit. So let's talk about the Met Gala, something I never thought I would be talking about, and what happened. So, for those of you that don't know, the Met Gala, they kind of refer to it as prom for celebrities. And normally it's a big fashion party. It's very exclusive, real expensive to get into. You have to be invited. And then even if you do get invited, it's still like $50 to $75,000 a ticket. I mean, it's big to do, right? So all the A-listers are there. They're wearing extravagant outfits. Some of them are insane. One girl had a purse that was a block of ice with a flower frozen in it, and it was like $22,000. So it is literally Hunger Games esque, the Capitol District 1 kind of a style event. And what was really interesting is that this is nothing new. This has been around for a while. The Met Gala has been happening for years. So why was it a big deal this year? Well, I want to show you this if you're watching on YouTube. This is Haley Bailey. So she is, I don't know, some B-lister. I've never heard of her prior to this little event happening, but she's some TikTok star, whatever, influencer. Well, she wore this crazy kind of flower dress because the theme this year was the Garden of Time, which is a short story that take a couple minutes to read, but the short version of it, it's about these people that live in this beautiful villa, and I believe there's something about the flat. They have this garden, and every time they pick a flower, it does something with time, and the whole thing is they're trying to stave off, I think it's called the rabble. So it's like, just peasants kind of getting close to them. So it's, again, even the theme of this year's Met Gala was kind of this dividing line between the elite and everybody else. So that was how it kind of all started. Well, there's a quote that often gets attributed to Marie Antoinette, who lived, back in the days of the French guillotine and things like that. But I think some people have said that she's not the one that said this, but it doesn't matter. The quote is, "Let them eat cake." And there was a trending audio that was going around for this event, "Let them eat cake." And the context of that basically is just saying that when the French people during the revolutionary times back in, I believe, the 1700s, they were starving. They had no food. Everything was bad. And she's just living in her ivory tower, not paying attention to everything. And they're like, they don't even have bread. She just kind of callously said, let them eat cake. And, pretty much just saying, like, who cares, kind of a thing. So the fact that you had the theme being this, again, very elitist theme, based off of fictional story, then you had a trending audio of "Let them eat cake," along with the extravagance of everything else. It just kind of, everybody was like, I've been, I'm paying double what I was for groceries even 4 years ago. I mean, I used to spend $100. This was 4 years ago. $100 at the grocery store. I'm spending $1.80, $1.90 now every single time. Everybody is feeling this. It's hilarious because the politicians will come out and they're saying the economy's great, everything's doing good, stocks are up. The stock market is not reality. The stock market is not what the average person is dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Sure, we might have investments, but at the end of the day, a lot of that's locked away in 401ks and different things like that. And they're like, oh, there's a lot more millionaires. Well, that's just because home prices went up and we have equity in the homes. I can't buy groceries with equity in my home. And if I sell my home to get an equivalent kind of home, still costs just as much. So the numbers are really being fudged to make things look better than they are in the world. But then when you look around, everybody's miserable. Like, people are really struggling right now. And these are in developed countries like the UK and the United States and other Western societies. Then you go and you look at what's happening a little bit further east, and you get into the Israel and Gaza conflict. You get into Ukraine and Russia and the wars that are happening. And even though we don't have boots on the ground, we are sending billions and billions of dollars. This is one of the Ukraine Russian war last year was the most money we, the United States, have ever put towards a war in a single year. I think it was somewhere around $140 billion. Y'all have to fact check me on that. But yeah, it's getting ridiculous. So now what is happening is based off of this girl, Haley Bailey's video kind of set this off. This guy started a blocking celebrities trend for 2024. And the comments just on Reddit, I mean, you go on TikTok, you go on X, any social media, I mean, they are just going after them. The last thing I heard was that Kim Kardashian had lost 9 million followers so far across all of the platforms. A lot of these people are just they're not just unfollowing them, they're blocking them. So it's really interesting. Yeah, you look at this here. So what you're seeing in a lot of these videos now is they're showing the scenes from the war juxtaposed against the extravagance of what is happening. I mean, this is so sad. Like, just looking at this, it's like, now look, this is humanity, right? Like, this is nothing new. This has been happening for all of time, to where we have had wars and conflicts going on, and then you have elites that are just kind of doing their thing. So again, I'm not 100% sure why now is the moment that we are really getting up, all up in arms for it. But the reality is, I'm here for it. I'm here for it for a couple reasons. I mean, number one, I think that we, the people, have been way too distracted with the shiny objects that we get thrown at us. I think that the invisible chains of tech have lulled us to sleep in a lot of ways. And here in the United States, we're just putting up with so much. I mean, you look at, I have to give it to France. I mean, France has had some serious revolts, dumping, like they have literally gone to government buildings and been dumping manure and a bunch of other things on the foot of it, like hardcore revolts. I mean, we do a couple tents on college campuses, and we tweet out some disapproving opinions on stuff. We are really letting this go to sleep, and we continue to see this with the people that we continue to elect. We continue to elect these people that are in their 70s and 80s who are career politicians. Being a politician was never supposed to be a career. The majority of the founding fathers had other professions, and then politician was just something on the side. Yet you get people like Joe Biden, who have been in, I mean, their entire career. It's like 47, 50 years or whatever the guy's been in there. I mean, it's unbelievable. So this was never supposed to be a job. And yet being a politician is one of the most lucrative jobs out there. You can go, there are so many different X/Twitter handles that you can follow. TikTok is doing this. There are people who are tracking the investments that our leaders on both sides, this is not a Democratic versus Republican thing. This is both of them. Okay. They are passing bills which will benefit specific companies, investing in those companies, knowing that bill is going to get passed and it will drive the stock price up. I mean, it is insider trading legalized. It doesn't make sense. We put Martha Stewart in jail for doing less, but when Nancy Pelosi does it, and, we're just like, yeah, whatever, money in politics. So I just want to encourage all of us. We need to be free thinkers. Number one, there's not a celebrity in the world, especially if they're a movie star, TikTok star, somebody who, an artsy form of talent. There's not a star in this world that you should be listening to their opinions on anything other than their art form. You want to listen to them about their, when I have my electrician come over to fix, something in my house, I'm not asking him about his politics and the things that he cares about. No. The only thing I want an opinion on from that guy is, how do we get the power fixed in the house? With these celebrities, the only thing that we should care about are the only things that they're actually good at, which is making music, making movies, getting dressed up, and just being entertainers. Beyond that, like the fact that they are saying that Taylor Swift could cause cause the election to go one way or the other. That's ridiculous. No offense against Taylor Swift, but her opinion is her opinion, and she is definitely not an expert when it comes to anything political. Okay, so it's just one of those things that I feel like now is a great time for us to really just wake up and go, you know what? We need to reset. We need to relook at the things that we value. We need to relook at the things that we are inputting into our ears, into our eyes, into our brains. What is going in there? Because ultimately, the things that we input, we are systems. What we input is what we are going to output. And recently, I've become very systems obsessed, finding different ways to systemize different elements of my life, paying attention to the things that I am inputting, whether it's food, whether it's sleep, whether it's whatever, in order to optimize my life, optimize my energy, optimize the way that my money gets spent. And all it takes, you don't even have to really screw up. You don't even have to make these big mistakes. All it takes is for you to coast. That's really all it takes for you to end up somewhere that you really don't want to be. You just have to coast, because you want to know why? In order to coast, you have to be going downhill. And that's where I think a lot of people in society are right now. We have been coasting and things are really picking up momentum downhill in a wrong kind of way. And now all of a sudden we're like, whoa, I need to put the brakes on. And it's like, well, we might be going a little too fast now. I don't know if we can. So I guess these would be the three things that I would leave you with. If you're somebody who's out there, if you're unblocking celebrities, you're taking your attention back, that's great. These are probably three things that I would recommend. Number one, unfollow everyone. Just unfollow everyone. I'm talking about not just celebrities. Unfollow friends that you don't talk to anymore. Unfollow people who just aren't, posting things that are particularly helpful. Unfollow things that aren't necessarily bad, but are just a huge waste of time for yourself. We average 2.5 hours. Average. So there's people doing more. We average 2.5 hours on social media. If you divide that by 16 hours, which is our waking hours, so we're taking the hours that we're sleeping out of this, that's like 14% of our day just spent doom scrolling. So don't just unfollow celebrities. Take this to the next level and just unfollow everyone. And the only people that you should follow are the ones that are going to help you accomplish something that is significant and meaningful to you. So perfect example right now on my YouTube, I am following a couple different people who are giving me business advice. They're teaching me certain skills. There's one that I started following because I'm trying to do some particular stretches just to stay healthy and do some other things. Everyone I'm following, every time I'm on social media, I won't say every time, but the majority of the time now, there's a lot of intent behind it. I'm not just doom scrolling anymore. So I have unfollowed a lot of people, and I am really just trying to curate my feeds to be things that are going to help me move the needle forward in some aspect of my life. The second thing that I would say is this: you need to create space for yourself. I think one of the things that I find when I talk to people is that we don't create space for ourselves to think, to be bored. Too many times when we finally do get a little bit of time, we just pick up our phones again. And it's just one of those, you'll be shocked if you even take 5 minutes to meditate, to just sit there in silence. You will be shocked at the thoughts, the memories, the to-do list that come flooding into your head, because all of a sudden your brain's like, oh, okay, it's me time. I can sit here and I can actually start processing some stuff. A lot of times when people, if we're ever doing like a mindfulness session or anything like that, I will have them get a pen and a piece of paper and sit it down right next to them. Because when you're not used to it and it's not a regular practice for you, so many things come flooding, into your brain, because for the first time in a long time, it's like you have space, you have mental space. So I tell people, I'm like, yeah, just write it down, whatever comes into your brain, and then let it go. Know that it's right there. You won't forget it. And then, try to get back to your mindfulness session. So that would be the second thing, is just really fight to create boundaries and space for yourself. And then the third thing that I would say that has to do with this is that I think underneath all of this, and I'm seeing this in a lot of other areas too, is just this need for authenticity. I think it's this need for connection that we are so deprived of. We have a loneliness epidemic that we are not talking about. 1 in 10 people are reporting extreme loneliness. And extreme loneliness, they're defining as, if they had an emergency and needed to call somebody, they say they have nobody to call. Now, that's a double-edged sword, because on the one side, that's really sad, and hopefully they can find some friend circles. But then on the other side, there is an element of personal responsibility there. And those people need to be putting themselves in situations in order to make friends. But regardless, we also, again, going back to the making space, we need to make space for new people to come into our lives, for us to be able to share and connect with them and break bread and have meaningful conversations and experiences with each other. I think that we are at a tipping point in culture. You're starting to see it in the dating world. Bumble just came out and announced that they're making all of these changes. There's been a ton of backlash on that because dating is such a crap show. And it's just one of these things that and they came out with on their billboard, it was something like, celibacy isn't the answer kind of a thing. And it was just like, really? Like you're coming out and that's going to be it? Like you're going to promote hookup culture. So you're going to go from a dating app to a hookup app like Tinder. There's a lot of different things that are around it. But again, I think all of this is really circling down to a core problem of the fact that we just don't have strong bonds in our society anymore. We don't have strong bonds with our family. We don't have strong bonds with friends. And I think that things are just ending up in a very shallow place. So that's kind of my take on it. Curious to hear what you think about it. But yeah, I think the let them eat cake is just the symptom of multiple. I think it's a really multi-layered cake that we are really starting to look at and go, we got to do something about this. But change has to start with you. We can't control celebrities. We can't control these elitists in the government and society, but we can control the things that we absorb. We can control the inputs that we put into our brains, and we can control our behaviors, our thoughts, whether or not we are choosing to be kind to others, whether or not we are choosing to open our world to other people's, looking out for others who may be lonely. Those are things that we can do. So that's my challenge to myself and also to everybody else is make space, unfollow anything that's not particularly helpful, and let's make some room for life.